Hey everybody, I'm going to try something a little new. I intend on doing this for all the different types of transactions, but this is not only will it be a video, but the documents themselves will also be available so that if there's any question as to what I'm looking for, what you need to put in any of the documentation, it's there. The first thing I'm going to do is representing sellers, so the listing paperwork and what needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. All right. So this, again, the doc will be available. It's probably going to be available within the next 24 to 48 hours, and that will be in back agent in the documents section. What I did is this is about seller's agency, and yes, mostly it's pointed towards newer agents or new agents, but this also gives you some guidance about what I'm looking for and what I expect, so that when you're filling out the forms for a listing, that you know what I'm looking for. So the first two pages, and this is how it'll be, you'll see the write-up and numbered, and then the spot itself, the slots itself on the forms numbered, so they will coordinate. So the first is just a little bit about seller agency. Okay, then the next talks about the fact that I want everybody to, if you're listing the property, do the useful information about real estate transactions. And again, you'll see how this goes just in general. Then the next thing is the signature. I think y'all can figure that out, but I want to have it. The residential property disclosure, what's needed and what the requirements are there. Pretty much everybody's got this down. I'm not sweating it, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but just wanted to have it. But I will tell you, here's where one of the problems comes, and that is the lead-based paint disclosure. The number of different people who forget to have these boxes checked, so there has to be one in each section, and then our sellers, if there's one, just one initial, if there's two, whatever, but they have to initial at both lines. Then you have to initial here, our sellers have to sign, and you guys have to date and sign. And I know you're saying, well, I got that. No, you wouldn't believe the number of times that I get that where one of those or both those blocks are missing your initial or your signature. The big problem, and we'll talk about this when we're talking about buyer's agency and contracts, is the fact that I see it missing not as much on our agents, but on other agents. So anyway. So next you'll see this is where the listing agreement, exclusive right to represent seller, comes in. So if you can see on the left-hand side, listing agreement, exclusive right to sell, all the notes you have, the date, etc., and everything correlates with a number over here. So 1, 2, you'd be able to go through this completely. Okay, so one of the things that comes up is the fact that right here, property, you need to put the street address, which is fine, but the tax map, ID, if you can get both of them in there, sometimes you can't, and the legal description. The number of times where I have to tell people, no, you have to check this blocks if there's a legal description for a lot block subdivision and put the information in, or if it's meets and bounds. Now, for the most part, we don't do meets and bounds, but this legal description, the block must be checked, and this information, it cannot be blank. I want the subdivision, condominium, county, municipality. So what that would be is, basically Prince William County or Manassas Park, etc. But also over here, the deed book and page number, that is on the tax records. I expect that will be in there as well. Notices, this is what everybody, gets a question. Oh, real quick. Under, then you have MLS description. That has to be filled out too, along with disability access. On notices, I get people that say, well, it's not in an HOA. I don't have to fill this out. No, you do. This is the notices. It says all notifications and amendments under this agreement shall be in writing and shall be delivered using the contact information below. So you have to have the seller's information, their mailing address, phone number, and email, etc., and then our firm address. And for the new guys, what we're looking at here is obviously the mailing address here. The work phone is 703, and it's over here, 441-7994, and you have the fax number. but the cell ought to be your cell, not mine, not anything else. Your cell, and the email is your cell, okay? Term of agreement. Term of agreement. When you look at this, take a look at what the normal conditions are within the market, okay? I would recommend no shorter than 2 months, no longer than 6. If you want to do 3 or 4 months, that's fine. 6 is fine. What I don't want to see in here is like, oh, 30 days. Well, the market can be hot, but that 30 days doesn't allow you to do a lot. So make sure that it's 30 days in there, okay? The next one you go, the next, I will tell you, I've seen on occasion something come through where everybody's initialed, I'm asked to, and you've initialed, or you've sent it to me for my initial, and the listing price is not there. I don't understand that, guys. It can't not be there, all right? Conveyances, make sure that. As is items, if there's anything as is, like the refrigerator that's in the garage that was the refrigerator 5 years ago, but they bought a new one, that's going to be as is. You don't want to put them on the hook to where now they have to replace the refrigerator if it dies on them, okay? As is marketing, you'll get agents that will, clients that will say, well, I'm selling it as is, no home inspections. Well, that can be the kiss of death, so you want to be able to talk to them. If there are any leased items there, okay? Home warranty. If there's not going to be a home warranty, put NA, okay? Put NA. And the reason being is that if later on they come back and go, well, I didn't really understand what you meant by home warranty. I really wanted one, and now I'd like you to pay for it. Or, no, put it in there. So cost cannot exceed. One of the most expensive is AHS, and a good one there is about $620. Okay, and that covers, some of the seller's things, and the warranty to be provided. Put that in there. If our client does not want a home warranty, put none or NA. Utilities, make sure that this is done correctly. And if it's multiple zones, put in the multiple zones. Okay? You can explain to them, obviously, about broker's duties. And here, this is the other part, number 18, where you're going to put down about what you're putting in the MLS. Okay? Broker agrees that the showing instructions to be shared in the MLS with other real estate agents and their prospective buyers are as follows. So you can't sometimes fit everything in there, but for the most part, you can put in there 1 hour notice, use centralized showing, whatever it is. Okay? And again, install the lockbox, yes or no. You cannot, I'm telling you not to install a combo lockbox unless you put something in the remarks. Okay? If they're asking for an electronic lockbox, that's what you want to use. And about the sales side. The marketing. Okay? When you have the marketing, understand that you're telling them, I'm going to put this on the market within either 48 hours or on or before date, so that there's a date they know the house is going on the market. It's important because I have had people who I put that in there and then they go, geez, I got a call, I didn't know it was on the market. You can refer them back to that. Okay? If you're going to do pre-marketing, and we'll do a separate session on the pre-marketing, but this is where you will put it. Okay? For parties agree to understand the internet advertising includes, and this is on the next thing, and number 23, seller authorizes or seller does not authorize property on the MLS. Should be on the MLS. This is, again, marketing and advertising. In the event seller has opted property in MLS and see above, broker is hereby authorized to display the address, things along these lines. My suggestion is do not allow unedited comments. Now, I've not had a problem with that, but in some of the cases where people can make comments, you don't want somebody making a derogatory comment about the property because that could influence a buyer. Okay? Next one, when we're talking about real estate seller representation and buyer representation, hopefully you have sort of set your clients for what's expected and what needs to be done. My recommendation is seller consents to designated representation. You all know I'm not a real big fan of dual agency. I know some of you do it, so you can put it there. Okay. Here's the next thing that tends to be a problem, especially for new agents. When we talk about broker compensation, When it says broker compensation, seller shall pay broker and cash a total compensation of. For some reason, people think that's just us. That is the total compensation. So that means if it's 6% and you're going to do 3 to us and 3 to the buyer rep, 6 has to be there. If it's 5 and you're going to do 2 to us and 3 to the buyer rep, that's fine, and we'll talk about that. But that's the total compensation. That's not just for us, okay? Even if you're doing something and you're doing something for free, let's say you're going to sell somebody's property and they're your brother and you're doing it for free, you're not doing it for free, the total compensation will be whatever it is that you're providing to the buyer brokerage, plus whatever your requirement is to pay through Fathom. If it's the $450 because you're on a month transaction of $450, it has to be whatever the commission is plus the $450. If you're on the Platinum program, whatever the commission is plus $99, okay? And again, within the number of days. And then buyer's compensation, this is where you'll put the buyer's compensation. So if it's a total of 6 and you put buyer's compensation 3, that means that we get 3 also. If it's 5 and the buyer's compensation is 3, it means we get 2. So remember, the payment is the full compensation. Cooperating broker is what you're paying them. Under other compensation, if there is not a bonus to the buyer agent, this has to be none or NA or 0. The reason being is when you put it in the multiple listing service, if you put other compensation to somebody other than a buyer broker, then basically, and we'll have a whole discussion on this later on if you'd like, sub-agency, and there we become responsible for the conduct of another broker's agent. So as far as anything other than buyer's agency or a bonus, there's none. Variable rate commission is discussed in here. Retainer fee, we've talked about that. That's all in here. I don't need to go into that. Relocation, condominium association. This, if it's in a condominium, this has to be filled out and properly, okay? Same thing for property owners association, okay? Same thing. Property condition, okay? I have not had a property that is exempt from the Residential Property Disclosure Act. Now, there may be, and if you have a question with that, you can always call and ask me, but it's also always the property, unless otherwise, the property is not exempt, okay? You have to put that because residential property disclosure is a requirement, okay? Lead-based paint, again, same thing. Current liens, you have to have your client fill this out as far as what the liens are, okay? And this has to be complete. This all stems from when we were having people putting a house on the market and being in arrears. So the first is property is not encumbered by a mortgage if they own it outright. That's where it would be. Security of a first mortgage, that's what most people will have. Security of a second mortgage, deed of trust loan, and this would be a regular second deed of trust. If they have a home equity line of credit, that's in D, okay? Make sure that you select if they're current on all their payments, etc. Okay? Seller financing, you got to make sure that this is closing costs, etc. And under 23, under closing costs, it says the seller's estimated cost settlement form is or is not. There is a spreadsheet that I have that you can work through, and we'll have that available to you too. That will also be in the back agent documents where you can fill it out and show your client based on price and what they owe. There's even instructions on how to fill it out so that they have an idea what they will possibly net or owe once they sell the house. Okay? Big question on FIRPTA. If it's a U.S. citizen or green card, the answer is, and you'll see sellers U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident as defined by Immigration Nationality Act, a green card holder. If that's yes, you're fine. If no, what that means is that once they sell the house, taxes will have to be withheld by the federal government. Then we have seller's duties, and you're going to have to put seller is or is not licensed agent. I'm going to tell you if it's an older home and they have oil heat, you want to ask this question because they may say to you, well, I have an oil tank. Can't you see it? It's above ground. Yes. Did you have another oil tank? Oh, yeah, and it's buried in the ground. That's a different subject. We'll talk about that separately. Call me, because what that really will need to have is an inspection, okay? If the property is tenant occupied or not, okay? And if they have a recording device. Now, I'm going to tell you, if they have cameras inside the house that record who comes and goes for security reasons, or they have a gun safe or whatever, this has to be, yes, you have to have it notified, okay? And again, read through this, you need to understand what this all says. And then any additional terms. So what we'd be looking at for additional terms, you know, would be along the lines of, something along the lines of, if they are related, you want to know that. You want to make sure things like this, like I talked about earlier, this needs to be in there. Have them sign and date, and then your information is here. Your information is here, okay? If there's any questions, if you have problems with this, please give me a call. I will let you know what's going on. We'll get all this taken care of. And as I said, there'll be more that are coming. All right? Thanks.